Debt gives you the ability to spend your future income today. If you want to go out and buy a $1,000 watch, you can take your money that you've already earned to go out and buy this watch, or you can use credit to buy this $1,000 watch, even though you don't have the money. That lets you boost spending, which grows the economy. However, now you have to pay this money back with your future income. So now your future money that you earn is going to have to go back to pay back this watch plus interest. So when you go out and you borrow debt, what you're doing is you're spending your future income today. And when a lot of debt and credit is being used to buy unproductive assets, it's people just spending money on things that they don't need, that doesn't produce any income. Now what you're doing is you're living in this consumer debt culture. You're buying a whole bunch of Gucci and Louis Vuitton and nice vacations, which make you feel richer. It makes you feel this more luxurious life, but then you have to pay this money back plus interest. So now more of your future income, more of your future spending is being used not to buy more stuff, but to just pay back your previous purchases. So this is what starts to create these cycles, because in the short term, you can create this boom. More credit allows you to spend more money, which allows you to grow the economy. But then when people spend too much money because we've taken on too much debt as a society, then people have to consolidate. You start spending less money on things because now more of your money is being used to pay down this debt. So less money is being spent on other things, which means the economy slows down. This is what starts to create these cycles. These booms and busts have happened in our society pretty much every decade, or about every decade for the last century. And it's happened not just in the United States, but in previous civilizations going all the way back to the Roman Empire. This is where you have to understand what the government and the Federal Reserve Bank do, because anytime you see this type of economic slowdown, what you see happen is people's money goes down, because now people are not working. You see a recession and people's wages go down because either you lose your income or companies can't afford to pay you as much. So now money goes down. I'm gonna draw you a little arrow over there. Well, when money goes down, what happens? Not only does spending go down because you have less money, but credit also goes down, because if you have less income or if you don't have a job, now you're going to go to the bank and they're going to say, we're not willing to lend you as much money as before. Before, if you made 40 grand, maybe you could borrow $20,000. But if you don't have a job, the bank is not going to be willing to lend you anything. So not only does the money supply go down, but the credit supply goes down. This affects spending now even more significantly, because not only do people spend less here, but they're also spending less here. So now you start to create this negative economic spiral, because this goes down, which affects the spending, which affects the economy, which means that now more businesses are going to have less money to invest in their employees. Less businesses are going to have money to invest in more stores. They're going to have less money to invest in better guacamole. So now you start to create this negative economic spiral. So then companies start downsizing, they start laying people off. And this is where now the government and the Fed will try to fight this, because the government will try to help give people more money, whether it's in the form of stimulus, whether it's in the form of something else. But again, the government doesn't have any money to do this. So what do? Well, they're going to go to the Federal Reserve Bank and they're going to say, hey, Fed, the economy's hurting. We have to do something to help the people, to help the companies, because we need people to survive. And again, the government is running a deficit. They don't have big cash piles anywhere. And the Federal Reserve Bank, while it's called the Federal Reserve Bank, they don't have any reserves. So now the Fed is going to go out and print money out of thin air. They're going to create this money, they're going to give it to the government, and now the government has this new injection of trillions of dollars, and then they will just throw it into the economy. They have just created this new money. Now people have money, businesses have money, they can continue to operate, and then this also will start boosting the credit, because now people have jobs again, and you have an income again. Now banks will look at you and say, ooh, you're making more money, you are more credit worthy, we are willing to lend you more money, and then this boosts spending, and this helps grow the economy. So that's, in theory, the goal that the government and the Fed try to do. The Fed also has one more superpower, because they also have the ability to control interest rates, which also affects this. Because when we are in an economic slowdown, the Fed will try to cut interest rates to stimulate spending, because that makes borrowing this credit even cheaper. You have to have some money in order to qualify for credit, but the Fed can lower interest rates to make it more attractive for people to take out this credit. When it's more attractive to take out this credit, people will spend more money to help boost the economy. So when interest rates go down, more people are likely to buy a car. More people are likely to buy a home. More institutions and banks are likely to borrow money and invest this money into companies. So the Fed can cut interest rates when interest rates go down, which then increases this. It doesn't increase the amount of money actually being produced, because money in this case is real value from products. But what it does is it increases the amount of credit out there, which increases spending, which will then grow the economy, which then in turn can help grow the money people earn, because now companies will pay people more, which could hopefully, in theory, help people earn more money. Now, while this can work great, the issue is what happens now when you print too much money. Can there be an issue where you have too much inflation, where now the cost of living is going up, where spending is getting hurt, and the government and the Fed can't keep just printing more money? They can't just keep stimulating because it's hurting the spending here, which means that now you're in a tough economic situation where now spending is being hurt, inflation is high, and if you print more money to stimulate, it's going to hopefully help the economy, but spending is going to get even worse because inflation is high. So now you run into the situation where you have high inflation, a high cost of living, but wages that aren't keeping up. And so now when you run into these type of situations, now you have a real problem. And this is where you might not be able to just stimulate your way out the way you could before, because if you just keep stimulating, well, yeah, you might be able to help the economy in the short term. This inflation problem becomes significantly worse. This is something that we've seen happen from civilization to civilization over time, because, even if you go back to the ancient Roman Empire, what happened? They wanted to grow very quickly. And then when they started this essentially inflationary period where they started debasing their currency, because before they used to operate with silver coins, and then the government wanted to grow quicker, they wanted to invest in more infrastructure, they wanted to invest in their military. So then they started debasing the currency, and they started mixing other metals, cheaper metals, with the silver, and they started paying this out. And then eventually people started to realize, oh, I need more coins now in order to fund my basic lifestyle, and it started to create more inflation, and eventually, along with the other factors, it led to the decline and the collapse of the ancient Roman Empire. And we saw this happen from civilization to civilization to civilization. And this is where you have to pay attention to all the things that are happening here. So what does this mean for you? And how can you use this to your advantage? Well, anytime you start to see more of this inflation, the thing that happens across time is that the actual paper dollars, the currency, becomes less valuable, because now the value of each dollar goes down, causing the price of things to go up. And so then the things that continue to go up in value are the financial assets, things like real estate, things like stocks, because now this is where people want to move their cash, because they don't want to just keep their money in cash because they know that it's losing value. Anytime you're in these types of high inflationary periods, the value of your currency goes down and the price of other things go up. You can also look at potentially investing in and owning some metals, things like physical gold, maybe even some physical silver. These don't really produce much value the way that equities and stocks and real estate create value, but it's like insurance. So it's another way for you to kind of diversify your assets there. But the key here, and the thing that you really want to pay attention to, is anytime you see more of this inflation happen, because anytime the government and the Fed continue to print more money because they are running a deficit, because the Fed and the government don't want to cut their spending, the government doesn't want to do other things to reduce the expenses, but spending keeps going up while income doesn't keep going up, eventually you're going to run into a situation where now inflation is going to get worse. And as inflation gets worse, that creates a bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots. It creates a bigger divide between the wealthy and the poor, and that's when you start to see the middle class really start to get wiped out, because the people that understand this, the people that are financially educated, well, you start making different decisions with your money, and that way you start to become more wealthy, because now the value of your assets keep rising. But if you don't understand this, you're not financially educated, well, then you start to become poorer, and you start to see a bigger divide between the wealthy and the not so wealthy. If you enjoyed the shorter clip from my longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, if you're interested in learning more about how to invest your money in real estate, our team put together an amazing guide on real estate investing. This guide goes over what real estate investing is, how to start using real estate to generate cash flow, and how to build wealth with real estate. This guide is completely free when you sign up for our daily newsletter. So if you want to read our guide on how to start investing your money in real estate, you can download that guide just by clicking that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.